As we all know, election season is here. Everybody's talking about whether they're gonna vote for Trump or Kamala. But on this channel, I'm focused on talking about the black community. I'm focused on the issues that really face us. So anyway, I wanted to bring up O'Shea Duke Jackson. He has a big channel, big YouTuber. And recently he made a post about his political endorsement. So let me bring that up. So he says, in 2024, I must endorse the Republican Party. After 60 years of Democratic rule, what African American can sit back and watch another 4 years of this comedy show? I wish we had our own party, but we don't. Until we do, I'll be voting red all day long. So you guys see that, right?
I beg your pardon?
Now, I want to also bring up some recordings of Dr. Khalid Muhammad and also Malcolm X, two great leaders of the black community who laid down their life for their people.
Well, why does Brother Alton Maddox leave the name slave on it? Because, goddamn it, we're still in the land of our bondage. We're still in the land of captivity. We're still a slave to the Democratic Party, still a slave to the Republican Party. You can't even see a Freedom Party. You don't see it. You're a slave. I'm a slave. And unless we admit that we are slaves, then we can never get free. Never get free. The first thing a slave must do is admit I'm in bondage. Admit I'm in captivity. Admit that I'm a slave and Giuliani is a slave master. Admit that I'm a slave and Clinton is a slave master. Admit that I'm a slave and Cuomo is a slave master. That's the only way you can get free. Stop walking around acting hip, slick, cute, and cool with Oochie and Coochie and Poochie and Gucci and all that stuff.
We suggest that Negroes vote for in the coming election?
I wouldn't suggest that they vote for any party or either party. I would suggest that the so-called Negroes become politically mature, realize the power that they hold in the field of politics, and then once the person who is running is aware that this man is awakened to the power that he holds, then that person who is running will approach that Negro on a more intelligent plane. As it is right now, most of the Negro leaders sell out to the white politicians for crumbs. And an awakening, a political awakening among Negroes will make it impossible for the present Negro leaders to sell our people out as they've been doing in the past.
So you guys heard that. That was the analysis from our, esteemed black leaders. And, my personal opinion is that, it doesn't really, it's not really good for black people to vote anyway. It's not like it's gonna change anything for you, for black people, like it's gonna help anything. But also like the response of Malcolm X, that we have to become politically astute. We have to become politically mature. If we're ever going to get some real changes, then we have to keep these politicians accountable. We can't just be selling out for crumbs. We can't just be having political leaders just or influencers or so-called black political leaders just selling out, getting behind candidates for nothing. Basically nothing. And you really think about it, okay, what did the Republican Party or Democratic Party really do for you? What has it done for black people? I mean, if you think about, okay, that one time in history, the Republican Party, okay, the Emancipation Proclamation. Okay. You also have the Democratic Party in the 60s under Lyndon Johnson. They were back in civil rights, all right? But that's really the only thing you can really credit them with doing for us, with things that benefit us. And no matter what happens, black America is still in the same place, no matter what president you put in, whether Republican or Democratic. That's what the history shows. That's what the track record shows. So my main thing is, don't give up your leverage. Don't make them think that the black vote is guaranteed, whether it's for Trump, whether it's for Kamala. Don't make them think the black vote is guaranteed. Don't just get behind them. Oh, well, we gonna get behind Kamala. Oh, well, I got to vote for Trump. Come on, don't sell yourself short like that. We have to keep them accountable. And if you think about it, like what are the core issues for us? And I mean, there's a lot of issues to go through, and You know, there's a lot of things I could say, and also there's the thing of black folks. We need to make international alliances. We need to become more international. We got to have international alliances with other people, support their movements, and you know, they can support us reciprocally, and so on. But the main issues that's affecting us, we have to uplift black families. We have to uplift black families. When I say that, I mean we have to uplift the traditional family, because we know that has a track record of working. We have to have women focusing on, you know, having the ability to focus on the caregiving, and thereby we have to be able to pay our men more. Okay, the men have to get more for the skills that they put into the job market. We haven't seen a wage increase since I don't know when. The wage has not kept up with inflation. So we have to be able to pay our black men more. And if that requires a policy that uplifts all families, paying men more so that they can be supporters of the family, the women can be more of the nurturers of the family, and we can have balanced, good family dynamics. We can have traditional families. We can have families growing up with good traditional values, kids watched over for, good male role models in the house. So that's one of our issues. We got to uplift the black families. The second, reparations. We need reparations, y'all. After what our ancestors suffered, there needs to be some recompense. Also, we need some sort of investment in the black community. We need some sort of prison reform. And this is kind of a more complicated issue. On the one hand, we need the investment in the community so our brothers on the block, our young brothers who are disadvantaged, don't get caught up in the nonsense. But at the same time, we need a prison reform so that brothers don't get stuck with huge huge prison sentences and no rehabilitation. And also, we got to control this police brutality. We got to keep these police accountable. But on top of that, not just keeping these police accountable, because white supremacy ain't going away. Okay, the thoughts in these racist and in the racist white cops mindset is still gonna be there. White supremacy is still gonna be there. So we gotta have more community protection. We gotta have more people in the community policing ourselves. All right, and let's take a look at the Trump policies. You know what I mean? We're gonna take a look at the Trump policies. We can argue about whether they will be good and whether he can even achieve these platform goals. Remind you, he only has like 4 years, a 4-year term. That's maximum. He can't get reelected, and we gotta hold him accountable if you're gonna support Trump. But you know, the big platforms that he has is, okay, he's gonna increase manufacturing in the U.S. Now, can he really do that in 4 years? Can he completely overhaul the manufacturing landscape and bring massive manufacturing jobs back to the U.S.? I mean, China, Indonesia, Thailand, all of them, they're taking all those jobs and they're cheap. You think the capitalists in power are gonna, you know, bring all those jobs back to America and have to pay Americans more? You think he can accomplish that in 4 years? We have to question that. We have to keep him accountable. He says he's going to end inflation, and I'm just going through the relevant points. He has more points, but he said he's going to end inflation. I mean, there's a huge government debt. The inflation was caused by the COVID spending, right? That started under Trump. It started under Trump, actually. But there's a huge government debt, and also there's a battle over the dollar internationally right now. You have the rise of BRICS. We don't even know the certainty of the dollar as we go into the future. And on top of that, if you're going to bring manufacturing back to the US, that means that by in and of itself, it means that the currency has to be devalued, because you have to be able to sell your products overseas at a competitive price. How are we going to beat China? How are we going to beat these other countries that can sell these products at a cheaper rate? We have to devalue the currency. So how's that going to end inflation? How's that going to stop inflation? That by its nature, that's going to cause a rise in inflation. And then he's talking about rebuilding cities, making them clean and safe. I mean, that, you know, another coded word for that just means locking up Negroes. You know, so if we, you know, tackling the police brutality, prison and mass incarceration issue, it don't seem like that's helping. So and by the way, he doesn't speak about any sort of wage increase in his platform. And in terms of Kamala, we know what she stands for.
Do you support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country, right?
So we got to hold these politicians accountable, guys. We have to hold them accountable. That's the only way we can do it. That's the only way we can be successful. And I'll remind you, look at the black community. And people say, and he says 60 years of democratic rule. I mean, it hasn't really been 60 years of democratic rule. It's been going back and forth. The black community started to fall under Reagan. The crack epidemic happened under Reagan. He was a Republican. Also happened under Bush number 1. It continued under Bush number 1. Under Clinton, the Democrat, there was the introduction of the 3 strikes rule and increased mass incarceration. Under Bush 2, it continued. And Obama was a mascot. He did nothing. Police brutality continued. Think about the case of Philando Castile or Trayvon Martin. Both of those happened during his administration. And during this time, wages never increased. In fact, there was a drop in wages in regards to overall inflation. So they never increased the wages. They never fixed the systematic issues going on in society. The family faltered and decayed during all this time. So the Democrats and Republicans, they really did nothing for you. So my recommendation is, don't vote. Or at least, if you're gonna vote, weaponize the vote. Keep them guessing. Keep them on their toes. Don't broadcast your moves. And O'Shea, overall, I think he's a good guy. This is just on YouTube. You got to get your opinion out, but I think he's a good dude. And I like the fact that he's living in Africa. I think that's a very inspiring story for brothers. And I obviously he works hard and he's successful on YouTube. But these influencers have to tell it like it is. If you're a true pro-black, if you're really a pro-black, you can't just give endorsements without concrete reasons. So anyway, guys, this is AIP TV here, keeping it black, preaching black liberation, peace and blessings. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate the views and the interaction. And until next time.